بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Let's continue with our reading circle. I think we had stopped at page 29. So whoever is doing page 29,
that would be me.
okay, go ahead.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So let me just quickly summarize what we have been discussing. So within Zikr and Hazf, the last time we discussed the example Akhartani, where at one place Noon was replaced by Ya, and then on this page we'll be proceeding to a similar example. So the word we're looking at is Ittaba'a, and it's ittisal with Ya Mutakallim. And I believe this phrase "manittaba'ani" occurs 2 times in the Quran that we're going to see right here. So in the ayah of Al-Imran, we see "manittaba'ani," the same word, but ya has been omitted. While as in the ayah of Surah Yusuf, we see the same phrase and there is a retention of ya. So author goes on and gives some explanation, some possible reasons as to why this might be there. So one thing they mention is that the ittiba' that is being talked about in Surah Al-Imran, it is in the context of entering into the folds of Islam. And then in the Surah Yusuf, this ittiba', it is being talked in the context of da'wah, calling to the path of Allah. And then few things we notice about that is that when doing dawah, you need to have an insight and knowledge of the principles of Islam, which is not the case with when you're entering into Islam. So that is like there is a vastness within the ittiba when coupled with the concept of dawah. And the other thing is that you need to be adhering to the principles of Islam more strongly as compared to the other case where you're not doing dawah, just entering into the folds of Islam. So these might be some reasons as to why we see a comparatively longer form of word use, as the ittiba when coupled with dawah is a much broader concept. So for this page, these are 2 things that author discussed. I hope that was clear.
Yeah, I think that was clear. That was a good summary. Jazakallahu khair.
Yeah.
We can continue. We can go to page 30. Who's doing page 30? This is Fatima, I think. Is she the one who, I think she's the one who's joining a bit late, isn't it? Let me see here. If she's not there, no, that was Dilruba. Okay. Okay, let's go to page 31. We'll come back to page 38. If they show up. Page 31. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. The Dr. Fadil continues the points which was mentioned in page 30 about the ayah in Surah Hud, in where the word tas'alni in Surah Hud, the ya has been omitted, whereas in Surah Al-Kahf, where the word has been mentioned, the ya has been mentioned in that. And he explains in page 30 that the first ayah is speaking about the questioning of Nuh alayhi salam to his Rabb after his son drowned. And as for the second ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, that is for the conditions put by Khadir alayhi salam upon Musa alayhi salam, that when he accompanies him, that he should not ask about anything until Khadir alayhi salam is the one who will be explaining to him the situation. And he, in page 31, Dr. Fadil puts a few reasons for why this could have happened. So the point number 1 is that in the story of Musa and Khadir, that Al-Khadir alayhi salam expected that Musa would actually ask him about everything that which he would do, because Musa alayhi salam would usually see him as a righteous person, and what he was doing would be necessarily without any context or without any understanding, which would be not actually correct or would be actually wrong. So either Musa alayhi salam would ask him, or he would have inkar of it, meaning he would disagree with what Al-Khadir alayhi salam did. And this was what Al-Khadir alayhi salam expected from Musa alayhi salam. Thus, the whole story actually revolves around what Al-Khadir alayhi salam did and the inkar of Musa, or the disagreement of Musa upon that. As well as according to compared to in the story of Noah, that it was only one question about about his son. Thus, the amount of details and amount of have is more than in Surat Hud, and for that reason, the Ya could have been mentioned, and in Surat Al-Kahf, and not in Hud. The second reason that he puts is because that the questions which Musa asked were three questions, whereas Nuh alayhi salam only asked one question. So that would be due to the reason of the amount of questions in both ayahs. The third reason which he puts is that because here both of them are being told not to ask, but in Surah Hud, the warning for not asking is stronger than the warning which is given in Surah Al-Kahf. As it mentioned in Surah Al-Hud, Inni a'iduka an takuna min al-jahilin. And this is by Nuh alayhi salam's Rabb to, meaning that the question was not actually a right question to be asked. And it would be making him from those who are ignorant. But that's not how it is in Surah Al-Kahf. Whereas Khadir alayhi salam told that he will be teaching him the wisdom or whatever he would do. Hatta uhditha laka minhu dhikra. So due to that, he mentioned the Ya in Surah Al-Hud as a hint to the amount of he removed the Ya from Surah Hud as a hint to the stress on the warning, whereas there was not much stress on the warning in Surah Al-Kahf, and that's why the Ya was mentioned in that. And it could be also argued said without any doubt that type of question in the both ayahs are different. As because the first question in Surah Al-Kahf is a question of understanding or explanation. And that's why he told Khadir alayhi salam told Musa alayhi salam, do not ask me until I inform you about that thing. Whereas the question of Nuh alayhi salam is a su'ala of talab. It's the question of a want. And the Ya could also have been omitted due to another reason, which was also already been discussed, which was that the Ya, when it will be mentioned, it would be having a more open or more general meaning than when the Ya is removed. And that was also with what happened, which can be said for the word ibadi and ibadi. So when the Ya was mentioned, the idea was more generalized and more open than when it was removed. So as it would be as if that the length of the structure is a hint to the amount of people in that group. And that is in the ayah, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ.
All right. Jazakallahu khairan for that. Maybe we can try and keep it short next time, because the expectation is that all of us, we've read these 5 pages, but we just want to get a summary so that we can refresh our memories.
Okay, inshallah.
Okay. All right. Page 32.
So, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. So he's continuing here the argument about the Ya Mutakallim added. So we have two things to notice in the Quran. So sometimes you will have Ya Ibadi with the Ya, and sometimes we will have that without the Ya. So the Dal will have Kasra, but the Ya will be omitted. So the first ayah he's quoting here is in Zumar. So he said this is a broader category because it is a larger group, because among mankind, most in general, those who transgress against themselves, they are the majority. And he gives the example of 3 other ayah. So وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. So he said most of people will not believe even if you desire it. So, and the second ayah is given وإن تطيع أكثر من في الأرض يضلوك عن سبيلي. If you obey most of those who are on earth, they will lead you astray from the path of Allah. So meaning most of people are astray. So this is he's giving the proof here that ibadi here is a larger group. And the third ayah he's bringing وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. So little are those who are grateful among the ibad. Okay. So similarly, he gives another example in Baqarah where ibadi is also quoted with ya, added ya. And for this one, when the ibad is asking about me, I am close. So surely I'm close. So he's making the argument here. It is also a broader, in a broader context. It is talking about everyone in general. Another ayah in Surah Isra also with Ya Mutakallim. And here also there's no restriction. So it is in general all the servants of Allah with no restriction are addressed here. So tell my servants to say what is good. So it is addressed to the general population. And also another ayah in Ankabut with Ya Mutakallim. And here we have to think he said it is general, it's a larger group, yes, but it is kind of restricted with faith. So I think we have to discuss that after the summary, inshallah. And he goes on to giving now the contrary, where the Ya Mutakallim is not mentioned on page 33.
All right, Jazakallahu khairan. Yeah, we'll come back to that page inshallah and discuss, and if we have any questions. Page number 33, Rumla.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Okay, so at the end of page 32, he's talking about the ayah of Surah Al-Ankabut where Allah where the ayah did retain the ya, and it was addressing the believers. And in the page 33 at the beginning, he's talking about the ayah of Zumar, which is also addressing the believers, but it didn't retain the ya. So he's explaining the difference between the two. And I think he says that in the ayah of Ankabut, the ya is retained when addressing the believers, and in the ayah of Zumar, it's not retained. So in the ayah of Zumar, it's not retained because Allah specified those believers by the additional characteristic of taqwa. So he constricted the circle of the believers because the general body of the believers is larger than the muttaqin. So in Ankabut, he only qualified the believers by faith, but in Az-Zumar, he also qualified them by taqwa. So that group becomes smaller. And in the second reason he explained was that the ayah of Zumar demanded taqwa from the believers, and in the ayah of Ankabut, Allah demanded worship from them, and worship is broader than taqwa, so the ya is retained in Ankabut and it's omitted in Az-Zumar. And the third reason was something that I was a little bit confused with, but what I understood from it was that he's saying it was more appropriate to retain the ya in Ankabut because the Ard also had the ya there. Like it says, فَأَضَافَ الْأَرْضُ إِلَى الْيَاءِ فَالْأَرْضُ أَرْضُهُ وَالْعِبَادُ عِبَادُهُ. So the Ard also had the ya there, and in the ayah of Az-Zumar, the Ard did not have the ya. So it was like in accordance to that. And then in the last paragraph of the page, I think he was saying that in Az-Zumar he did not attach the ya to the ard because he said قُلْ يَا عِبَادِ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, so he's saying it to the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say it. So if he says ardi, inna ardi wasi'a, then like there's going to be ambiguity and people can think that it's referring to the earth of the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But if he just said like ya ibadi alladina amanu, then he's like not leaving that possibility of thinking that you could be referring to the earth of the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's why he said وَأَرْضُ اللَّهِ وَاسِعَةٌ, to remove that possibility. And I think that was it for that last paragraph.
Right, Jazakallahu khairan. Yeah, that was basically it. I think Fatima is here, so we'll go back to page, was it 31?
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, page 30.
30, okay. Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, so here on this page, he is discussing ayah from previous page, which is فَإِنْ حَاجُوكَ فَقُلْ أَسْلَمْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّهِ وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي. So ana pronoun without ya, and then he is discussing ayah from Surah Yusuf, where we have complete pronoun. So the reason he gave for these ayah is Surah Yusuf, which has complete pronoun. He is saying this is about people who has entered Islam, and on top of that, they are calling other people to Islam, and they are calling to Sabilillah. And the other, so this is a more complete group. And the first one, which is a general, is talking about all people. So here, because I'm a bit confused about this, so he is, so because in our previous pages he was discussing when we have larger people, then he mentions like Quran mentions complete pronoun, right? But when he is talking about smaller group of people, then he skips something, right? So here he is saying, because the second in Surah Yusuf we have people who are already entered into Islam, and on top of that they are calling to Islam. So this is a complete group, full in itself. So therefore he mentioned complete attached pronoun. But the first one here, they are entered into Islam, but it is not necessary they are calling to Islam. So therefore he just mentioned with that pronoun with kasra. This is what I understood. Is it right?
Yeah, so basically the point is when you compare the two groups, so you have those who have just entered the Islam, and then you have those who are actually actively calling to Islam. So those who have entered the Islam, this is a much bigger group, because the people who do da'wah, these are a small number of group as compared to Muslims in general. So the
Right.
bigger group has a ya, and the smaller group does not have a ya. That's basically it.
Wait, the bigger group has a yeah.
Yani
Okay, so I was confused about, because this group, which is in Surah Yusuf, this would be a smaller group, right? Because it would be a subset of that people, that Muslims only who are calling to Islam. This would be a subset of that one, right?
yes.
So won't it be a smaller group? The first one should be larger, who have
Yes.
submitted.
Yes,
So
that's
then
the
why
idea.
is
Unless we're
Okay.
confusing the two ayat.
But my confusion is in the so Yusuf, this is a smaller group, right? So here he has mentioned the complete pronoun, but he is saying this is I didn't understand his reason. I just explained the text, but he said.
I can say something about that.
Go ahead. But your voice is a bit low.
verse-
Maybe by coming closer to the microphone.
Can you hear me?
It's very low.
Oh. Not sure why that is. I'll
Are you
just
using
type in the chat.
earphones?
No,
Or is
I'm
it
not
just-
using earphones. I'll just type in the chat.
No, it's better now. We can hear you now.
Okay. So I was saying that I think that it's more not about not about quantity, but about the quality of the believers, I think. That in the second group, because they are calling towards Islam and they are talking about it mentions the wisdom of Islam and the rulings of Islam and all of those points. So because of that, the quality of their like following, the way that they are following the Prophet ﷺ is more like close to him, rather than the general case of Muslims who have accepted Islam. So they are actually calling people to Islam the way that the Prophet ﷺ was calling to Islam, and they actually learned about the religion the way that the Prophet ﷺ taught them. So the quality of their belief is kind of, you could say, closer to him. And that's why I was thinking that he mentioned it as more, right?
Don't know why I'm
Yeah, I think
understanding. Go ahead. Go ahead.
please go ahead. I was thinking on the same page that it's about ittiba, the concept of ittiba being a broader concept as compared to the other place where the context is just entering into the Islam. And the examples he has discussed is about calling people towards Allah that require insight, knowledge, and some basra to the concepts. So this ittiba has to be a like more ashad, like strong ittiba. So in that sense, I think it's about the shidda of the ittiba that makes it a broader concept.
I think also numbers, because when people are just entering the Islam, they are fewer in number. But after they have settled, because if you look at the context of both ayat, one is in the context
With
of
that,
very early on, when just people are entering into Islam. So that is a few people we're talking about. But once they have gotten into Islam, and وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, now the followers have become more after they have entered into Islam, and now we have a larger group. So the numbers have also, because he says, فهو يشمل الاتباع الأول وزيادة, because this ayah in Surah Yusuf, it includes the first group, those who have just entered Islam, and more, those who are actually calling people. So you have two groups in Surah Yusuf. You have the group that is just entered into Islam, that is yani contained in that same ayah, and also those who are calling people ala basira.
yeah, it could be that as well, yeah.
So he says the ya is an expression for عبارة عن الكسرة وزيادة. So it carries more for the kasra, whatever was included in the kasra, and slightly more. So those new Muslims and those who are calling as well. All of those
Okay,
are
so it's
followers
like
of the
different
Prophet.
times in the history of the seerah, as in.
Yeah,
I see. Okay.
yeah.
Jazakallah.
Because Surah Yusuf is a Makki surah, very early on, right?
I see.
And the other surah was what, by the way, before I mix up my mind? Ali
Ali
Imran.
Imran.
Wait, am I confusing?
Okay. So
It's the opposite.
now
I don't
So
know then. I don't know his argument, to be honest.
I think that argument makes more sense, because now I see the first paragraph of page 30 here. Here he is talking about the commitment of those people is bigger than the general people, other people, because maybe he is talking about quality of their faith instead of just quantity.
that was my view on it. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's basically the summary of, we can now get into the discussion since we've already started the discussion. So let's start with ayah number 29, and let's get into the details of it. There's only one question that I received in the Google Sheet, which is on page 32. So let's just go page by page. Are there any questions on page 29? To be honest, this whole discussion, I'm not really sold with this kind of like the reasoning and whatnot, because it feels like it needs a lot more research, in my opinion. It feels like I'm lost most of the time, like with the reasoning and jumping from one reason to the other. Like it's not, because I'm a very organized person. My brain's like order. So whenever we move from this reason to the next, to a different reason, like the yeah in this particular ayah is present because of this reason. Then we go to another ayah, it's present because of a totally different reason. I get confused. I get like why are we doing that? Why can't we just have one reason for all? You know? So yeah, that is just my own bias and my own, I don't know. All right. Sure. I have a different view.
It's one
Okay,
thing I
yeah.
wanted to
Go
confirm
ahead.
is that
Uh-huh.
on this page, one thing I wanted to confirm is that this phrase, I believe it, these are the only two places where this phrase occurs. Like those who follow me. Would you be able to confirm that?
That's something we can check. I'm not so sure if that's the case.
I did a search on tafsir.app, just those two ayah pop up.
Okay.
I think that's relevant because, so here what we're doing, we're looking at some word which occurs at different places. And there's some difference. In this case, is the omission of ya. So only way to tell or maybe to analyze why that would be the case would be to analyze the context. And there happen to be a lot of different contexts. So that's why I believe that's why there are different reasons mentioned.
Yeah.
So I just
yeah.
quickly searched it out. I searched up the word in tafsir.app, and yeah, there's only these two ayahs for man ittaba'ani. Ittaba'a does come up in other ayat, but
Yeah,
this
that is.
particular
But
form,
this particular phrase, man ittaba',
yeah, it's only
that's
twice.
with this pronoun. Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that leaves us. The only way we can analyze is just analyzing the context. So
Yeah.
whatever we can gather from context, those are the possible reasons, I believe. I don't think there's
Yeah, I think a lot more
simple
needs to be
solution.
done as far as this,
Yeah.
because it's the reasons are there, but I feel like something is missing. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but to me, I find that like something is constantly missing. And also sometimes he would compare ayat and then like skip other ayat. For this one, he hasn't. He's compared the only two instances. But sometimes like other ayat he would not discuss. So I'm like, okay, why?
Oh, I see. Yeah, he does put some ayats, like different ayats as an example. He does that, yeah.
Yaqub, you said you have a different view. You want to share some notes? Please go ahead. Feel free. So that we can all, understand what what the author is trying to say, and we don't misunderstand what he's trying to say, because that's again an important thing. We don't come with our own biases, and I'm really trying not to do that. Oh, okay, fine. Let me check in my WhatsApp. Okay. Yeah, so the chat, if you try to send something, it has a limit of 1,000 characters, I think. So that's a problem. Okay, fine. I can read what you said. Let's try by thinking about what is being talked about in Surah Al Imran from ayah 1 to 20. First of all, Surah Al Imran begins with telling us about the book that was sent all over the history of humanity as a guidance, Tawrat and Injil for the people before, and Quran for us. And like always, there are two audiences: those who engaged with it and those who and chose to follow, and those who engaged with it and try to fight it in every way possible. Those who try to follow know the road is not safe, so they made dua to not deviate from the path. And as for those who disobeyed and tried to fight Islam, they cannot succeed neither here nor in the hereafter. Then he talks about the love of women, beauty, wealth, and so on and so forth. And try to have, those who try to have beautiful patience will have Jannah. Then we come to ayah number 19, where Allah is saying that the accepted way of living is Islam. Therefore, we should take it seriously and learn for some people in the past, because they didn't fall into disagreement because until after they received guidance. Okay, in Surah Al Imran, the stories of the people of the past and how they engaged with their books is hinted, but it wasn't detailed. Deals with matters of accepting Islam as the way of living. In Surah Yusuf, so that's basically the summary of what's happening in Surah Al Imran. In Surah Yusuf, Islam is being mentioned as a way of life, and as a way of life is being implemented. The story is elaborated in an organized way. There is sabr in it, dua, taqwa, and in the end, forgiveness. So Allahu A'lam, but I think because the Prophet ﷺ, he was in a vulnerable position in Surah Ali Imran, so the deleted version is used. While Surah Yusuf, he was in a vulnerable position. He wasn't in a vulnerable position, so the normal. I beg to differ, because historically speaking, Surah Yusuf was revealed in Am al-Huzn, in the year of sorrow. He had just lost his main support, Khadija, and he had just lost everybody that would. So he was more vulnerable, I would imagine, in Mecca than he was in Medina. I don't know about that. I mean, maybe in terms of the context, but still, historically speaking, if these ayat were coming down to cater for certain occasions and certain events, then Surah Yusuf came at a time when the Prophet ﷺ was going through a very, very difficult time in his life. I mean, Ta'if happened in the same year. So I don't know. I don't know. See, this is why I can't find a very conclusive, like you get an idea, and I've been reading other books regarding this, and some would say, oh, the ya is omitted because of matters of the unseen. Like if it's talking about the matters of the unseen, the ya would be mahduf. For example, like we talked about the hut, ma kunna nabghi, without the ya. And then because Musa did not see the samak, the hut disappearing, so it was in the ghaib. I don't know. I'm like, maybe, but then what about, wakhshawni? For example, they would say, the ayah we did, wakhshawni, one that doesn't have the ya, they would say because these believers, they haven't seen Allah. They fear Allah in the ghaib. They haven't seen him. So the ya is omitted. But in another place, the ya is present. So have they seen Allah now? Of course they haven't. I mean, so yeah, I don't know, to be honest. There's a lot of studies that need to be done regarding these concepts. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Allah knows the correct what he intended by doing this. Allah knows best.
Maybe
In
it
their
was.
midst. Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying maybe it was just the context of, so in the passage itself, when
Right.
the first one in Al Imran was about arguments, and whereas in Surat Yusuf was rather just like the opposing views were not mentioned really, right? It was not about an argument at that point. Maybe something to do with that. Not sure.
Maybe that's what Baba Yaqub meant. Maybe I just misunderstood
Yeah.
him. Yeah. Maybe that could be it. I don't know, to be honest.
Could be.
How I see it is basically when it is emphasized, when it is more ashad, the shorter version is used, and which is much more calmer than the whole version is used. Like this is the pattern I have been seeing mostly. Like Wawakhshawni was emphasized, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is serious here very much. So maybe then it was shortened. I don't know. This was how I was going about it.
Allah knows best, to be honest.
Like when you're relaxing, you kind of say the full word, and then when it's a tense situation, you say the shorter word, something like that.
That could be also it. That could be also it. But to me, I'm looking at the ya al-mutakallim as, so this person who is speaking is sort of not explicitly mentioning themselves in the context. Like if I say, like, وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, I have mentioned myself I have attached myself to these people, right? I mean, of course, that argument also is not foolproof because somebody can argue against it. But that's how I would imagine it would be, like I am excluding myself. I'm not mentioning myself explicitly. I'm mentioning myself with a kasra instead of the ya al-mutakallim. So I'm kind of distancing myself a bit. So if that's the case, then why would this happen, right? Why is the Prophet ﷺ saying, فَقُلْ أَسْلَمْتُ is being told to say فَقُلْ أَسْلَمْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّهِ وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, but not with the ya, as if he's a bit of a distance from them. I don't know, like not very explicit. But that's again my working theory, and it has holes in it. I'm not, I cannot like promote it, to be honest. Yeah, it's a difficult topic, this one, if I'm being honest. Anyway, any questions regarding this page 29?
What do you think is like unsettling about these explanations? Because the one did make sense to me.
Sorry, what could you repeat that?
Like, what do you think is not so settling, like not so convinced about this? One of them did make some sense to me, so
Yeah, so that's the thing. I feel like every time we encounter a reason, or he gives us a reason, and again, we have to appreciate that this is not something that has been discussed extensively. So he's also just breaking the grounds for this kind of study. So obviously, it's not going to be like 100% foolproof because it has been discussed extensively. But I feel like every reason, sometimes he will give this reason in this particular instance, and then in this other instance, he will give another completely different reason. Like, for example, Ibadi and Ibad, he's talking about a completely new reason that has to do with numbers, right? Whereas before, he was talking about other reasons. So I don't know, it feels like...
I mean, maybe that's because that's how it is in the in the language.
And
That
also
maybe
for me, again, where I'm coming from is I'm looking at Ibadi. Okay, so the thing is, there's also language at play here, because they would say the expectation versus the omission. For me, the expectation is that the ya has to be there. Yani, that's the expectation. Correct? In sarf-wise, the ya has to be there. So what has been done, what the omission is the new thing that has been done. And I feel like that's what we need to discuss. We don't really need to discuss when the ya is there.
Yeah.
Why are we discussing when the ya is there? That, to me, I keep struggling with that position again. So to me, it would just be to look at, for example, I would just look at this context and this Surah Ali Imran, and why the ya has been omitted in this particular instance, because I expect it to be there. And of course, here's the other thing where language comes into play. They will say, because this is عند الوقف, you are stopping at this ayah, so you don't, there are two languages. You can either mention the ya or you cannot mention the ya. Language-wise, that is a lugha. I don't know which from which dialect, but there's a dialect in where if you stop, then you omit the ya. So now, I mean, that could just be because this is عند الوقف. That could be the reason. I don't know. You see that? Man, this discussion is giving me a migraine.
I think this being done for different reasons is part of the debate, because I don't think there is this key, the book, which tells, okay, here are the reasons that this might be done for.
Yeah, it's still a work in progress. The study is still ongoing, I suppose. Allah Ta'ala. May Allah open for us. Go ahead.
Could the ya also be mentioned like in Surah Yusuf? Because like depending on who is addressing. Because for example, if you look at the context, it could be as if like he is wanting to, like show himself that he is having a bara'ah, or like a type of, distance from the people of kuffar, like ala basiratin ana wa man ittaba'ani qul hadhihi sabili ad'u ila Allah, because he's confronting those who are doing shirk, right? So there's no argument being put in from the kuffar side. So basically, having like a bara'ah from shirk, like distancing yourself from shirk. Could that be also because of the reason? So that's why the ayah was completely mentioned, to show that how much distance he's wanting to put away from the kuffar. And as for Surah Ali Imran, he's actually answering a confrontational or argumentative, giving an argumentative response. And because the Yahud are like people who do not have attentive ears to the Prophet ﷺ, because over here it's mentioned that they are saying something, the Yahud. فَإِنْ حَاجُّوكَ, whereas in the Surah Yusuf, it's not like, clearly mentioning that they are saying something to him and he's giving response to it. He's actually just stating it without it being a response. So could it be due to that reason also? Like, it's just what I was thinking. Like, because if you look in the context, it could have been also because he is trying to have a bara'ah from the kuffar, Whereas in Surah Al Imran, it basically just responding to them in the most concise way because the Yahud are not having attentive ears to him. Could it be also like that?
So you're saying that in Ali Imran is more concise than in Yusuf?
Yeah, because
I-
I'm not the concise meaning like not in a meaning of concise like because they will not have attentive ears to him and they will not want to listen more elongative statements or more elongative response to it. Because if you are having in the Surah Yusuf, he's actually addressing them and putting a statement forward instead of having a response for it. Could it be also like that? I'm just asking because that's what I just think it could be. The chances is that it's not going to be right, but I just think that could be also another view of it.
Perhaps again, you see, that's the thing. We could come up with so many different reasons. To be honest, I don't know. And you see, the other thing I'm asking myself, so because he said the ya, sometimes it's mentioned in the tafasil or tafsir, but when you compare these two, you see in Ali Imran, there's more explanations than in Surah Yusuf. So what's going on there then? You know?
Mm.
Yeah, so Allah Ta'ala alam what he intends by his words.
I
at the
think
end
the
of the
more we
day.
think about it, the more theories we'll have, because I just thought about how the word is aslamtu, right? Which is to submit.
Right.
So maybe it's something to do with that word being near there also, because when you submit yourself, you're not like you're kind of not talking about yourself. You're talking about like you're submitting yourself to the purpose or to the goal or to Allah. And maybe
You see
why
now
he doesn't
I think
mention
you're
his,
onto something. I
because he's
think you're
not
onto
mentioning
something.
himself, right?
I think maybe it could be because here he says ad'u, and this one he says aslamtu.
Right.
Because yeah, makes sense. I think you're onto something there. Yeah.
Allahu Alam. It could be. None is best.
Yeah. So maybe just to unpack what Kulthum is trying to say here is in this first ayah, he says ad'u ana wa man ittaba'ani. When you're calling, that's like an outside thing, right? So it's not it's known, it's not hidden, as opposed to like aslamtu. I can say aslamtu, but it's a secret. Like, how do you know that I've actually done Islam? Like I've truly submitted. So the Prophet ﷺ doesn't know that manittaba'ani, all of them have submitted. So maybe there's a nuqsan there. Maybe there's something missing there in their Islam, that also the word وَمَنِتَّبَعَنِي, especially when it comes to the followers, there's also nuqsan with the ya. I don't know. Because maybe the Prophet's Islam is not the same as the followers' Islam. But of course, da'wah, we can all do da'wah. I think in that sense, then the Prophet ﷺ is close to his followers in da'wah, but he is not close to his followers in terms of Islam. In that sense, I can actually agree with that. Now that's a theory I can back. That makes sense, honestly. Yeah. Yeah, of course, at the end of the day, you have Islam and then Iman on top of that. But okay, again, my point of view is, why is the ya mutakallim being removed? Like, the Prophet ﷺ is kind of distancing himself in a bit for some reason. Oh, yeah. So yeah, so that could make sense maybe. Allah Ta'ala, at the end of the day, we don't
Allah
know.
knows best, yeah. SubhanAllah. We don't.
Okay, let's go on, because I think if we stay here, we would stay here forever. Let's go to page 30. Let's make this the right size. Why is it behaving like this? Okay, let's go to page 30. Any questions on page 30? Any points of observation or anything at all? No worries, Mariam. What is ya mutakallim? The ya that we've been discussing. Like if I say, well, no, in this case, sorry, it's not ya al-mutakallim. No, it is, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, okay. I got confused there for a bit. Page 30, any questions? I think we discussed quite a bit of this. Yeah, and again, at the end of the day, Allah knows best what is being intended here. Anything that's stuck out for you? Okay. Page 31. So you see now he comes with the itala and tafsil again. And I'm like, why is it suitable here and why is it not suitable there? Anyway. Okay.
What would be the meaning of وَمِن نَافِلَةِ الْقَوْلِ وَمِن
Right.
نَافِلَةِ الْقَوْلِ? What would be the translation for that? That's a bit confusing.
Yeah, so this is kind of like a phrase that we just use in language. Okay, so technically in English, we would translate this in two ways. Either we would say, needless to say, I think that is the closest in meaning. So in English, you say, oh, needless to say, da, 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 da. Or you can say, it goes without saying. It goes without saying, da, 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 da. But to understand the phraseology, وَمِن نَافِلَةِ الْقَوْلِ, we know what nafila is. Nafila, like nawafil, the voluntary acts. Why are they called voluntary? Because these are extra on top of your what is obligatory, and then you have something that is on top of that, something that is extra. Same thing with the bounty, sorry, not bounty, booty. War booty, what is it called? Like we have Surah Al-Anfal, right? So nafil is the war booty and the plural is anfal. People go to war with one aim or with a particular goal in mind. Maybe they're going to conquer, they're going to fight their enemies or whatever, but they end up getting something extra, something on top of that, which is the booty. So this is called the nafil or anfal, right? So nafila, in its meaning, it means something that is on top. In other words, I don't need to say this, but I'm just going to say it anyway, because you already know what I'm about to say, but I'm just going to say it anyway, right? It's something on top of what I've already said. So, min nafilatil qawl, I've already mentioned quite a bit, but just as an additional point, but you already know this, I'm just going to mention this. And that's why we say in English, needless to say. It is not needed to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. That's what it means.
Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah, you can maybe say side note, I don't know, like, but yeah, but something that doesn't need to be said. That is nafilatul qawl. Yeah. All right. Let's go to 32. Any questions on page 32 or discussion points? I think there was a question Zahra was talking about والمؤمنون أيضا طبقة واسعة إذ هم لم يقيدوا بغير الإيمان. Right? So he was talking about just the idea that عبادي with the ya, when the ya is mentioned, it's أوسع, it's a bigger group that is being mentioned. So in this ayah, it says, يا عبادي الذين آمنوا إن أرضي واسعة. And he's talking about believers. So والمؤمنون أيضا طبقة واسعة. And believers in general, believers are is a big group, right? إذ هم لم يقيدوا بغير الإيمان. Because they're not restricted by just iman. Because we're looking at people from different colors, different races, different backgrounds, different sizes, different ages. Like the only restriction, the only qualification, if you will, is iman. So this is a big group, if you're to look at it. It's not just, for example, if you said Arabs. Arabs is a small group of the Muslims, right? But if you to look at all al-mu'minun, then it's a bigger group than if you were to restrict it in with a different criteria as opposed to iman. I don't know if that made sense.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And of course here, this is where he talks about now the restriction, because الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا رَبَّكُمْ, that they're being restricted by taqwa. But again, to me, this is not a restriction. This is a command. They haven't done
Yeah.
taqwa, so now have taqwa. It's not really a restriction. So to me, this explanation was like, I don't know.
And it gets
Yeah,
more confusing because later he quotes the ayah as an example that how few there are such people, but he says that, there's the ayah, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ.
Right, let's go
But
there.
that one has a ya in ibadi.
Exactly.
so that was my confusion also. He makes the argument, but you can see the contrary in his examples. And he's still pushing the argument that it is a bigger group.
Where was that ayah?
It's right under this, I think.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
So
وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ.
yeah, okay. The point he was trying to make here, this one I can clarify. The point he was trying to make is that he quoted this ayah, first of all, قُلْ يَا عِبَادِي الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا. So, يعني, this is a very big general group, or everybody who has يعني, oppressed themselves or who have wronged themselves. لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ. So there's a lot of hope in this. So it's a very, very large group. And now to prove that majority of the people are actually wrongdoers or not people of Islam or Iman or whatever, he goes on to quote other ayat that talk about the general group being wrongdoers or being people who are not really worshippers of Allah, if you will. So وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. So no, majority of the people. So you can see أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ, majority of the people are not believers, right? وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Again, if you were to obey majority of who is on the earth, they would misguide you. So majority of the people on earth are misguided. And then he uses this ayah, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. In other words, majority of the people are ungrateful. Only a few are grateful, but majority are ungrateful, which means that he's talking about a large group, and that's kind of like what he's trying to say. But to me, this one, because this ayah comes when he talks about Dawood, alayhi salam. And to me, it feels like وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. He's actually honoring those who are shakur and not really mentioning about the others who are not shakur. Like, I don't know. Because the context in which it comes in, because it mentions اعملوا آل داود شكرا. Yes. And then اعملوا آل داود شكرا, and then وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشَّكُورِ. So
Right. So giving them the feeling that they're
honored.
like they are appreciated, like honored.
Yeah. I kind of like that's how I was reading it, but I don't know. Again, I could be wrong. I haven't done much research on this ayat. A few of the general all Muslims are grateful. So Surah Saba is I think a bigger group. Surah Saba, I don't know what Surah Saba mentions or says.
Yeah, here I think Sister Kusum was mentioning that here Walidim and Ibadi, so Ibadi is a smaller group here because they're bad, but the Ibad, all Ibad are included here, I think.
Right. Yes, all Ibad are included here.
Ah, yeah, brother.
And then Khalil from them are Shakur. Allah Ta'ala alam. But don't you get the feeling that every time Allah says Ibadi, it's like there's love and there's mercy and there's forgiveness in it? Like, I don't know. To me, I can't explain all
That's
the
different.
ayat, to be honest. But it feels that way sometimes. Just like in this ayah. قُلْ يَا عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا. There's a lot of love here. There's a lot of hope. There's a lot of... And of course, it ends with what? إِنَّهُ هُوَ الْغَفُورُ الرَّحِيمُ. Like mercy and forgiveness. Does that have to do with it? I have no idea. I cannot tell you. Because again, it's also mentioned regarding the people of Jahannam. The ya is mentioned with regards to the people of Jahannam as well. And of course, Ibn Ashur mentions that this ya is mentioned here as to increase them in regret. Like, you could have been my servants, but look at where you are now. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think that could be one of the reasons.
Allah knows best. An argument on point 3 of page 33. Point 3. Anybody wants to share? Oh yeah. So basically he's saying that he said ya ibadi, so my servant, and then ardi, my earth, my land, right? So فأضاف الأرض إلى الياء أرضي فالأرض أرضه والعباد عباده. So he owned the slave and he owned the land. And he mentioned the dhamir in both the maskan, which is the earth, the place. This is a zarf, yeah. Was sakin, the doer, the inhabitant. So the habitation and the inhabitant, if you will. I don't see the point here to be. I don't know. Okay, so if this is the case, if we are saying that, okay, because it was mentioned here, so that's why it was mentioned here, then why isn't it the case for the other ayat? Like, for example, the one وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي أَسْلَمْتُ وَجْهِيَ لِلَّهِ. Why was the ya mentioned there? If وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي, the ya was omitted at the end, why is it mentioned before? So to me, that again, this argument is like, it's not very strong, because you find places where the ya is not mentioned, and before it was mentioned.
I think, like you said, we have to focus on why it is dropped, not why it is there.
Yeah,
Because it's
100%.
messed up everything. It is there, is the normal state. There's nothing to argue there. But we have to put all the ayah where it is omitted and see why. I think this the clue is there.
Yeah, sometimes something can be mentioned. Like, for example, you would have very similar ayat, and this I think he does in a Ta'bir al-Qur'ani, where he takes two very similar ayat, and he discusses why was this one changed, or why there's a fa here, and in this one there's no fa. Now, to me, that's a dhikr. To me, that can be considered as you mentioned something that doesn't necessarily need to be mentioned, or it's not really part of the morphology, or it's not like it's new. So when he does those explanations, then that one is okay. But this one here, I'm like, I don't know, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it is far-fetched. Also, why فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي? Why we don't have the ya there also? This is page 30 in the
Let's go
middle.
back there. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is it simply both have the ya? I think if there's anything more. Yeah, that's majorly what he's saying. Both have the ya and both belong to Allah. That's his point. But then that point kind of sinks if you're to consider other ayat. So this is my problem. My problem is, why does this reason apply to this ayah and does not apply to this
And not
ayah?
other, yeah. Because when I'm pointing out to Tas'alni, you said that with the ya, you felt it is more close, like عِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا.
Yeah.
But here he's talking to the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, right?
Yeah.
So فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي مَا لَيْسَ
I
لَكَ
have a
بِهِ
theory there.
Okay, give me the theory.
My theory is, where's the ayah? My theory is that Allah is distancing himself from this conversation. لا تسألني, like he's removing himself from this discussion. Do not ask me about ignorant matters, right? Do not associate me with things you do not know. So Allah is kind of like removing himself from that talab, from that request. Do not request me. So I'm not even going to put myself explicitly. I'm not going to mention myself explicitly in this ayah. That's my theory. Like, This is an arrogant matter you're asking me, an ignorant matter, as something you do not know, you don't have any knowledge on. Don't associate me with ignorance. That's my theory. I don't know. Again,
And Khidr is saying also, وَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي. And here the ya is coming.
yeah, because to me that's the normal
This
way
is
of saying it.
this is
I
the
don't have a
normal
problem with
way.
that. See,
Okay.
that's my headache,
Mhm.
because when I read this, I see this is normal. I don't really need to do balagha here. But to me,
No,
this
yeah.
one is not normal. So what's
Mhm.
happening here? Then I want to know more there. That's kind of like my challenge when I'm reading this book, to
I
be
think
honest.
it's I think what
Yeah.
he's doing here in this passage is a little bit different, because he's looking at the same words, not just omission. Like for this word, tas'al, and then there is an additional damir to it. And then same word and same additional damir to it, which is not
Okay.
omitted. Maybe trying to
Okay, now let me
analyze
give
that.
you an example. Let me give you an example. Say I'm writing a book, and in
Mhm.
one chapter, I'm discussing a completely different thing. In another, let's chapter 1, I'm discussing a king. In chapter 47, I'm discussing, I don't know, a welder, right? Two different people, two different contexts, two different stories. And then I use the same words, slightly different in this story, but slightly different in that story. Like, how are these two stories related? Why am I comparing these two things? That's my struggle. They are completely unrelated in terms of context, in terms of like, where is this and where is that? You know, if it was the same context, like what he does in a Ta'bir al-Qur'ani, or where he compares similar instances or similar stories, like for example, Ibrahim would mention one phrase in one surah, and in another surah he would mention a different phrase. Like for example, he says, "Inni bari," and then in another place he says, "Innani bara." Right? So now, to me, that is worth comparing, because it's the same story, same guy, same speech, different statements. So now you can compare the two. But this one is in Medina, one is in Mecca, one is talking about this, one is talking about La hawla, like, why are we comparing? One is talking about Nuh. Yeah?
I think it's in the title. It's talking about words, balagatul kalima. Maybe that's the reason, and not talking about the subjects. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
Yeah, but
And that's something he's actually doing. He's looking at the words, not at the subjects, but taking words and analyzing them. And after that,
words
analyzing the
don't come in a
context.
vacuum. They come in
I think
context,
this is
and
one thing
especially
I
with the
once heard
Quran.
Ustad saying is that when same words are used in the different places in Quran, there is some kind of connection. And that was just his theory, I believe, but he did say something like that.
Yeah,
Like there's some hook
the
being
things that he
created.
calls anchors, right? Like
Yeah,
you've heard this word
yeah.
before.
Mhm,
Yes. But tas'alni, how many times? I mean, to be honest,
I understand. I mean,
yeah,
it's a bit convoluted here. I do understand that. But yeah.
I get his point, but I also struggle. I honestly struggle. But I kind of get it.
Also for the previous passage, I think those Ardi and Ibadi, he's putting that as a prerequisite for the upcoming paragraph, the one we were discussing before.
Page 33, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. So you're saying, what about this?
Can you scroll a bit down? Yeah, this one. Is it like this was discussing Ardi and Ibadi? And
Yeah.
then in the next paragraph, he's saying that there is no idafa done like this. Maybe he's trying to create the connection between these two concepts.
Yeah. Yeah, so to remove the possibility of being to avoid misconception and misunderstanding, that is it the ard, is it the land of the Prophet, or is it the land of Allah? I mean, this one I didn't have a problem with it. I think this one makes sense. This one is good. Yeah, this section.
I want to add a point about the Aslam towards Hiya, like taking what Sister Kusum had said, that also where you mentioned that there should be a reason of skipping, like omitting, because that's out of the normal. So Aslamtu wajhi lillahi, that it's about the submission, maybe humility, that I'm submitting and I'm submitting my face. But as for the obeying, yeah, it is a little bit up. As for the Aslamtu wajhi lillahi, as for the obeying, it's people are obeying me apparently because I'm the messenger, but the real obedience is not towards me. So that's why, like for humility, because it's about submission. So it's not really obeying me, but submit to Allah. It's obeying Him. Like it's indirectly me. So maybe that could be the reason. Just taking what Sister Kusum was saying, I think reason for omitting self, because one of the reasons of this mentioned above was also maybe emphasizing the self more or emphasizing the self less. So maybe to emphasize, I mean, take away the importance of self here, Aslamtu, because he obedient, because he's showing humility and submission towards Allah. So to emphasize the selfless here, Aslamtu wajhi wa man ittaba'an. Because you were mentioning that the point here doesn't apply here, that the wajhiya, ya mutakallim is mentioned here, but so why is it like you were mentioning the inconsistency? So that's why I'm saying maybe that's the reason. There's a specific reason of omitting the self from here in this context, maybe.
But wajhiya, the self is mentioned. My face, Aslamtu, like I don't.
If you can scroll just a little bit up, the previous ayah of
for
oh here,
tabani.
okay. Oh, here it's here. Self is mentioned here, and like when he's saying that I'm submitting my face, myself, my face, so it's mentioned here. But as for the obedience is not towards me. Obedience is towards Allah. So I don't want to emphasize myself a lot in terms of obedience, because I'm the messenger, yes, but the real obedience is not towards me. So he doesn't wish to emphasize the self in this context, his self in this context a lot, because the real obedience is towards Allah. So he's maybe emphasizing the fact that everyone just submits to Allah.
Maybe,
That's
I
why
don't
the self
know.
is taken away.
Probably.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, but the obedience and following the messenger, it's mentioned in the Quran. فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm just saying that maybe Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying it. So in the context of submission, maybe he's saying that because the context is of humility. I think with some sister was making this some similar point. Because I think you were saying that it sounds like an inconsistency that if Ibadi and Ardi, Ibadi has Ya Mutakallam because Ardi also has it, but
it's
because
not in
it's
just
about
this ayah, by the
ownership.
way, Sister Aruba. It's in almost every ayah that he has quoted before. Like if it's just go back, we can
Yeah,
find
I'm
more
not repeating what
evidence.
you said. Actually, I agree with that because it happened elsewhere as well, that a bigger group had like a fuller, more complete version. He says, but it also happened that bigger group had a shorter version also. I think that also happened. So
now you see
not
that's
disagreeing, but just
contradictory.
for this point. Yeah. Not disagreeing, but just for this point, maybe I was thinking there's additional reason to keep the ya in wajhiya, but omit it in the same sentence.
Okay, maybe. Allah Ta'ala knows at the end of the... I just noticed, like, do you see how many times Islam is mentioned in this paragraph? Like, it's just...
Yeah, Aslam,
yeah, quite a bit. Al-Islam, Aslamtu, Aslamtum, Aslamu. Like, maybe it has to do with Islam there for some reason. I don't know.
Maybe Allah.
Yeah, true.
Just like I think in Surah Yusuf, the ayah, like if you can go just go a bit up, yes. So like over here, the type of sentence which is being used is different from the type of sentence which is being used in Surah Al Imran. Because over here in the Surah Yusuf, it's saying that Qul hadhihi sabili. So this is actually having a jumla ismiya. Whereas in the second in Surah Al Imran, he is mentioned to be said in a jumla fi'liya, which is in a weaker state. Plus, also, if you look at Surah Yusuf, the amount of pronoun ana is actually quite a bit more than what is mentioned in Surah Al Imran, because there will be, like, for example, in Sabili, the ya mutakallim would be there. Then then there would be in the damir in ad'u. Then ana again ala basiratin ana wa man ittaba'ani. So that's 3 damirs. Whereas in Surah Al Imran, there's only the damir in aslamtu and wajhiya. That's it. There are 2 damirs. So due to those 2 reasons, could it also be there? I mean, it just came up to my mind. So could that also be like an argumentative point for that?
Could be. It could be. Allah knows best.
Depend,
But you see, still, even this ni, the kasra here would be considered the damir in this case. Like it is اكتفي بالكسرة نيابة عن الضمير. Right? So there's still damir in this one, but it's just it's been made like it's been, the kasra is sitting in the place of that damir. The kasra is telling us that there's this damir there, but it's still there. So I don't